I think Chad said they're going to do another Elvira. They just announced her for Planet Comic Con in Kansas City. That she's going to be there, so I think she'd be kind of fun to meet. So anyway, let's see. Let's move on to our first topic of the evening, and this has kind of come up with some of the recent kind of pre-orders, and this might not take too long to talk about, but I want to talk about quarter scale pricing.
Yeah.
There is a kind of an influx of pricing where we have, for a long, long time, and again, I'm dating myself, but when I first got into this hobby, premium formats were $300. Those days obviously are long gone, but Sideshow was the staple, right? I mean, they were the quarter scale company. Mm-hmm. So everything that came out quarter scale was Sideshow, at least for the most part. Obviously, there were customs and things like that, but that price point is where we started. Nowadays, we are in around $650, $700-ish, right, for premium formats. Then you go up to quarter scales that are like XM, and we're talking now, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for some of them. Some of them are a little bit cheaper. And I'm trying to remember what spawned this. What piece was it that everybody was kind of outraged by with the price? It was the Loki. The Loki from Queen Studios. So what do you guys think? Do you think that, we're getting to the point where a lot of these quarter scales are the price of a third scale, which I know the third scales have also crept up. Third scale started at 900 and now we're at 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever. Yeah. You still can get third scales at 1,200. What do you guys think? Are we to a tipping point like we always talk about, or are we just going to keep on going up and people are going to keep on buying? What do you guys think?
I think you definitely need to be more selective nowadays. Didn't they used to say like the price point was somewhat based off of the edition size? Like somewhat. So it makes me wonder sometimes, like we're seeing like all these XM studio pieces with like, I don't know if we're going to show it tonight, but like the Green Lantern had like an edition size of like 300. So it makes me want it brings up the question, like, are you willing or would you be willing to pay more money to see a character be made if it has a low edition size, at least just so it's made?
But don't they, they usually announce the price before they announce the ES anymore.
Right.
So I don't think there's a lot of water under that bridge, because if they announced that there was going to be 300, they could jack up the price a little bit knowing that there's only that many, but most of the time you hear it way after the fact.
Sometimes XM will tell you what the maximum ES will be, and sometimes it comes in lower than that. So that's helpful, at least. But Sideshow, you never know. You just assume it's going to be giant.
What about the rest of you guys? What do you guys think?
I think from what I read in the groups, I feel like I see a lot of collectors who've been doing this for a while are starting to say, I'm phasing out. I'm going to buy one. Maybe I'm done with my collection type thing. But the newer collectors are still pumped and excited about it. And I think that's what's still justifying it for the companies, because they're still selling.
Yeah.
But do you think that they're shooting themselves in the foot by doing it that way? Because yes, there are a lot of old people like us, old collectors. We're not all old, but we've been in the hobby for a while. We're used to spending this kind of money. It does, just like Eric said, it does have to come down to being selective, because not only of space, which we talk about a lot, but it comes down to the fact that, yes, we are starting to slow down. Newer collectors might be all gung-ho, but also I think a lot of newer collectors aren't, at least initially, able to spend that kind of money. They have to kind of work their way up. And so if you have a lot of new collectors that are only buying a few pieces and there's so much choice and so much variety, would it be smarter if the companies went a little cheaper so they could sell more units?
I don't
know.
Well, that's what we always used to say. It's like they're going to keep making these pieces if we keep paying, the prices. So it makes you wonder, are people starting to like smarten up and not ordering as many pieces, and we're seeing these low ESs now? or Talon, for example, with no ES on it and pieces getting canceled.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seeing some of the Prime 1 ESs and the XM ESs, they're shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, so that to me says a lot.
I mean, look, it's Sideshow still pumping out some pretty large ESs, but at the same point, they're keeping their prices lower. So something to be said there.
By far, I mean, Sideshow is really at this point, Sideshow and Tweeterhead are probably the most affordable for the price. Now, some might say, well, you know, maybe there's not as much detail as, you know, on a Sideshow piece as there would be an XM piece. And I do agree to that to some level, but again, they're just different. You know, I mean, it's like apples to oranges to me. I think XM usually has, like, I'm looking at Sideshow bases right here compared to my Samurai bases. Samurai bases are way bigger. There's way more detail. And so you're paying for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think, do you think XM's prices went up that much? I don't think they went up too much. Maybe like 100.
No, I mean, when I bought Samurai Batman and when I bought Moon Knight, I think they were $990 SJD, which is like $750 US. Now, most of their quarter scale pieces are $1,250 SGD. So
like 1,000. So
yeah, it turns out to be about $1,000. So that, I mean, that's a sizable jump. I'm at the point now where my collection or my pre-orders are either Sideshow or they're Queen Studios fully sculpted stuff that stays fairly reasonable.
I do feel like the XM has stayed. I mean, they were, I don't know. I always felt like they were kind of the expensive ones. Like they were the ones that were kind of out of my reach because they were quarter scale and there's so much money. Now that I own them, I do understand why so many people buy them. They're really awesome. But I do feel like they have been kind of this, you know, that standard price. I feel like they have not deviated too much. But then you have a newer company like Queen Studios. And again, we've talked about Queen Studios a lot, that their price points have been incredibly fair, like shockingly so for some of these pieces, like some of the busts. Like, do you remember how much you paid for your Vision bust? It wasn't bad.
It was like, I think it was like 900.
Right. I mean, that's a life-size bust for $900.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a, you know, a very, very good, accurate likeness.
Yeah.
And whereas other companies are charging $4,000. Now I understand those $4,000 have silicone and they have arms and, you know, all the bells and whistles, but that's still a big giant difference in price.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have a company like Queen that I think that's where I was so shocked. I was like, wow, that seems like a lot for a quarter scale from them. Like I was just really surprised. Were you guys surprised by that? Or do you feel like that price is justified?
Do you mean the Loki?
Yeah, the Loki.
Well, I mean, the Loki does have silicone skin and rooted hair and tailored clothing and all that fun stuff.
Jeff, didn't you say the jacket was like real leather? Not
it's real
fake
leather. Yeah, they call it, it's like genuine leather. So to me, that one is more justified than a lot of the other ones that we've seen. I mean, I ordered the Wonder Woman, but wasn't it like, I think it was like $940.
And that's quarter scale.
Quarter scale, fully sculpted. So I've never, and they're making a lot of them. I think they're making like 3,800 of them or something like that. So that I've never really understood that price, but I can kind of understand the Loki price.
What about the rest of you guys? Do you guys feel like it's a fair price for what you're getting?
Well, Hollow made a good comment in the comment section. She says about the secondary market where some of these pieces are going for afterwards. And we always hear the various companies are looking at that kind of stuff. They're in our groups, all the different ones, and they're reading what people are giving for feedback. If they're seeing people are willing to spend double the price on a piece that, you know, cost $400 a couple of years ago, they're probably wanting some of that cut of the pie. So
sure,
why sell it for 400 when you already know they can sell it for $8?
Right.
It feels like there was a good year and a half or more where I feel like a lot of the prices were really down on the secondary market. Like you couldn't get back to retail. Do you guys feel like that's flipped a little bit lately? I guess it just depends on the piece, probably.
I've been thinking that since the prices have gone up so much on newer pieces, it makes me wonder if like older pieces will hold their value a little bit more now, or will they, sell for cheap? I don't know.
Loki is polystone. There is
Yeah.
no.
I was just reminded of that.
I saw the comment and went to look at the description
Yeah.
of it. It seems high to me.
So what they have is they call it rooted hair, and it is, but it's really like a wig. I mean, it's like a wig that they put on, which is very well done. I'm still, again, you saw my Joker this weekend. What did you think of that Queen Studios Joker in person, Jeff?
Oh, that one.
Yeah, him sitting down.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And Todd thinks that it's the best Ledger likeness.
I think it's incredible. And I mean, I have the two. I've got the Prime one and then this one. And I was selling that Joker. I was like, I only need one, but I decided I'm just keeping it. I just can't. I can't not at this point. I've got it. It's just so awesome.
Right.
And but it's that kind of that wig that is on polystone head, which I think looks better than sometimes silicone. We've obviously talked about silicone not looking all that great sometimes. But they said that they were doing it for the first time a wool hair on Loki. Right. So that was interesting. But I don't know. Jeff Morris, what do you think about that price? Do you feel like you're a Marvel fan? What do you think about spending something like that if you were still collecting Marvel?
I would have to think, what character it is and how it looks. I would be very leery to pre-order it.
Are you a fan of Loki in general?
I like Loki, not $1,000 Loki, but I have a Loki Hot Toys figure. A Captain America, if it's like, really looks good, that, somebody like that, or an Iron Man, maybe, but Loki's not something that I would drop that much money on.
Does it worry you guys seeing a price like that? Does it worry you about the next year or the next 2 years of where we're going with the pricing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had to talk myself off the ledge of several things, thinking that it's just got to the ridiculous point. That's where I was with that Heath Ledger Joker. I'm like, I really feel like if I'm going to spend $2,200 on this, it needs to blow me away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't blowing me away.
Right. And you're talking about the bust also, the bust and the statue.
By the time you taxes, shipping, all of that, you're $2,300.
Yeah, that's true. Polly's Hideout says one huge pro to Sideshow and Tweeterhead is the packaging. Extremely easy to sell and ship. That is true. A lot of times their boxes are a little smaller. It really just depends. Although, I find like the XM boxes, I'm looking at that cable box. I just packed him back up tonight. And, I don't think there's anybody in the business that does it better than XM with their packaging. Just phenomenal.
So he's a good example. If he was $990 SJD, I would have bought him.
Cable?
But he was pricey.
I think it's $1,200. So again, for me, like it's like, oh, it's just XM. Like that's just XM prices. Like it's like not outlandish to me. But for some reason, whenever I saw that from Queen, I just like blew my mind. Do you think that's just, why do you think I reacted that way? Do you think it's because they are a newer company and I was just surprised that they would charge as much as a more established company? Or do you feel like Queen's already at that level?
I was surprised at their prices on their 1/6 scale figures, but apparently people are buying it. I'm not.
Are you talking about the in art figures?
Yeah. I mean,
the Joker.
And the way that they, kind of force you to spend $1,000 plus to get the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
I thought was just crappy. I thought that turned me off. I don't care how good it looks. I just want one. I don't need two.
Yeah. I was real surprised the way they did it. Very strange.
Seems like there's no real straightforward answer. It's either a couple of things going on, or because like Matt said, I've heard that before as well. Like, all right, the companies are seeing we're paying all this money on aftermarket pieces, so maybe they raise the prices. Or is it due to the pandemic? Or are they having to pay more prices for the factory for competition? So maybe they're raising the prices on that. It's like, I don't know. It's like with everything in life, prices go up every year, but our salaries, remain the same. So it's
I feel like some of them taking a big advantage of the pandemic.
It's all speculation. It's like you never know what it is.
And do you feel like, I don't know, I feel like it was during the pandemic when Sideshow kind of started to lower their prices, but everybody else kind of went up. It's like now that things are starting to kind of quote unquote get back to normal, there go the prices again.
I think as long as we keep paying the prices, they're gonna be like, yeah, why not? Let's keep these prices going up.
Do you think it's FOMO?
Yes.
I had to fight with the Loki piece because I think it's extremely well done. At least the proto is. But then it just occurred to me: do I want this because I really need a Loki piece, or just because it's so well done? Yeah. And would I be better served to wait for them to do a character I really want that high quality?
When I saw that Loki piece, you're the first person I thought of.
Really?
It just feels like a Secret Sanctuary piece.
Yeah.
To me.
It's a nice looking piece.
And it really is. Yeah. But again, we're getting to the point where you have to be that selective. And I don't remember when I said this. It might have been the other day, but I'm like, when I first got in the hobby, you would see these giant walls, full of cubes of every single character and every single statue made. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to see that anymore.
Could be.
I don't think people can do it.
Yeah. The other thing about Queen Studios is, you order a $600 statue from Sideshow. I know that it's probably going to be $25 to $35 in shipping. I order a $1,150 Loki statue from Queen Studios, and my shipping is to be determined and is going to be a lot more than that. So it's, that just makes it even more difficult to justify the price when you have to pay a lot more for shipping.
Yeah, there you go. Super Geek Toys, and then add shipping. It's like, that is the unforgotten, we're trying to justify $1,200 for a statue, but then, if it's going to be another $500, $600 on top of it.
And what also sucks is it's not just, us collecting, the larger pieces, like, because we used to say, well, if you can't afford quarter scale, you can't, afford third scale or bigger, go collect 1/6 or something smaller. Even those pieces are like outrageous in prices now. So it's like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Daniel has a question here, a statement. And although I do agree somewhat, I also want to disagree a little bit, because when comparing other companies, Sideshow is subpar. There are a lot of companies that in a lot of ways have surpassed Sideshow in the quality, the paint, but Sideshow is still incredible, and they do cater to a different audience. They cater to a different price point. If you compare a $150 or $170 Iron Studios 10 scale to a Sideshow premium format, to me, it's night and day different. Is a Sideshow piece as maybe as good as a Samurai piece? Maybe not. Again, it's always subjective, but I also think that at this point, they're kind of catering to different audiences. Do you guys agree with that?
I have a lot of Sideshow pieces in my collection that do not have counterparts from other statue makers that are better. I just don't agree with that statement.
I mean, it's kind of apples to oranges again, where it's like, again, it's subjective. It is where you feel like it is. Like, I am looking at my Batman Who Laughs from Sideshow, which some people don't love. I think it's phenomenal. I'm looking at it right now, and then I'm looking at like the Samurai Deathstroke right above it, and to me they look as good as each other. I mean, they're both amazing.
Yeah.
Are there some pieces that might not be as good, or maybe there's not as much texturing, or the paint might not look as good?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But again, there's maybe some XM pieces that I don't like, or that I don't think they turned out very well.
Definitely.
So I don't necessarily agree with the subpar part. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, well, again, it's always subjective, and there's some good pieces from all the companies and some really crappy pieces from the companies as well.
Yeah, it's just too general a statement. I think you have to be more specific.
Yeah, I agree. But again, thank you for commenting, Daniel. I appreciate it. Agree to disagree. There you go. So it's always good to talk about this stuff because, again, we all have our own opinions on it. And as long as I think, we always try to stay fair and try to, keep it upbeat and positive as possible. But I think it's still okay to talk about our opinions and things like that. So, again, I appreciate that, Daniel.
Well, I'm really excited about the Sideshow pieces I have on pre-order. They're coming this year. It's some great stuff.
That's right. Pudgy says Sideshow is a great value for the money, equals Ford, Chevy, XM, and Prime are the BMW, Porsche, all serviceable, and you get what you get where you want to go. You pay for more for quality and style. And again, that is subjective. Again, it's kind of how you view each piece.
Okay, but it's not always, because like it was going back a few years. It wasn't always about the design or the style. We used to say, at least, maybe not you guys, but I used to say XM and Prime 1. We used to joke around. Is it more quality because the pieces are heavier? They have better magnets. For the most part, they used to be better engineered and constructed. So, but I don't know. So I think Sideshow's gotten better with a lot of that, but
I do too. And
except for their magnet, I wish they would try to fix their magnet issue. I keep mentioning Batman Who Laughs. His magnets were great on that statue, but a lot of their, like, I don't know, for example, like I said, the magnets on their pieces, it's like, I get a statue and I want to put in a part. I don't want a magnet that feels like it's going to fall off the statue. Yeah.
Well, and when Sideshow nails a piece, it's knocked out of the park. And again, there are pieces. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. What was I going to say? Oh, I get comments all the time on my videos that there's certain people that complain every single video if a statue is over textured.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some people that like that more Sideshow smooth look or that Tweeterhead smooth look with some texturing versus like a Prime 1 piece that has texture everywhere or an XM Studios piece that has texture everywhere. Again, it's all subjective. It is how people view the art. It's what you like. So again, every company is going to nail it and every company is going to have ones that are duds.
Or like going back to the weight or the material, like would you think because the statue weighs more that it's, a better product? No. Or I'm thinking back to I think it was the Swamp Thing. Remember, it was made out of vinyl, I think.
Yep.
And it was a lot of money, and we were saying, and it was like super light, and it was like, oh, did we pay that much money for a piece of plastic? But if it's already, if it's done well, then maybe. But I don't know. Depends on the person. So.
That's right. It's always subjective. I mean, if that Cara Dune, a lot of people don't love the way that turned out.
Personally, I like when statues are on the heavier side. I don't like a lightweight statue if it feels like a doll to me. So,
but if
I tend to agree with that. Go ahead.
If you're going to talk about Cara Dune and Rey, you got to talk about Boba Fett and Ahsoka Tano, which are great.
They are fantastic.
So let's be fair.
Yeah. And Sideshow has some of the best female faces of any of them.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
Sideshow has incredible artists, but I see their point. It's like it's frustrating if you're trying to collect a line and some are not as good as the others. That is frustrating. I get that. We all want them to turn out really well. But like that Cara Dune, I don't think is very different than the prototype. I feel like I didn't like the prototype.
I agree.
So I didn't think the likeness was there. But then you look at that Ahsoka Tano, incredible. That's Rosario Dawson. I mean, that is 100%.
Yeah.
And again, they might be two different artists. I don't remember who sculpted what. And so again, that is frustrating. But again, if it didn't look like her in the prototype, I'm not going to buy her. So it's like you can't be too shocked. And so I don't think you can complain too much. But you're right.
Matte Black.
What did you say?
Ahsoka is matte black.
Oh, of course. Should have known. Yeah, phenomenal. Paula, $9.99 super chat. Thank you very much. And Paula is also an awesome member here. I love Sideshow, but someone turned me on to 1/4 scale statues. I wonder who that was. What? I'm guessing that's probably me. Could be Mr. Delaney here as well. He does some great quarter scale as well. As you can see behind him, a plethora of amazing statues. And so we're just glad you found this community, Paula. Thank you very much for the super chat. I've been liking the Iron Studios 10 scale. I mean, the 10 scale stuff's great too. It's just, to me, it's just a different level. But man, you could sure get a lot of bang for your buck because you're getting to get a whole bunch of characters. I mean, what can you get? 8 or 9 of these for about the price of these quarter scales that we're talking about.
Oh.
So I don't know. Is 8 or 9 worth it to me compared to 1 quarter scale? I think I'd rather have the 1 quarter scale. But again, it's just what you collect, what you can afford.
Even that's changed though, because when I bought my first 1/10 Iron Studios, it was $95.
Yeah.
Now they're almost nearing 200 plus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Which
more.
I think is stupid. I just think that price point.
Yeah. I've seen some in stores, and you know, when you're in a store, you want to buy something and you think,
Sure.
and it's like, and you know, what I want is probably the most expensive thing they have in the store. And then I'll look at it and I'm thinking, I could buy a hot toy figure for that.
Yeah.
For maybe a little bit more. And it's going to be bigger and more detailed. And that's my thing. It's like, I have a hard time, you know, if they had kept it below 200, they could have got me several times. But
The crazy thing is, like, I'm looking at McFarlane. McFarlane's come out with a bunch of the resin statues from DC Direct today, and they have these incredible figures. So those figures, how much do they run? $20?
yeah.
And you have really great detail. I mean, they obviously are figures and not a statue, but I mean, if you compare it, they're the same size. So a $20 McFarlane statue that's well sculpted or well painted, like that clay face, versus, you know, a little tiny Batgirl that's 10th scale for $175. That's a hard pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right now. If you want something affordable, you got to buy a Marvel Legends figure.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it feels. I do think that Sideshow, their likenesses are getting better. You know, it started with that Momoa piece that Jeff has, and I think it's gotten better. Again, has there been a few misses? Yes, but considering how awful they were for a while, like they were embarrassingly awful, in my opinion, with their movie sculpts. Not all of them. Like I think of like the Dark Knight premium format had a good face. The Joker was okay. The Joker that's clapping is okay, but I think especially with these Star Wars pieces, even the Kylo Ren and Rey, I think they look good. We'll look at those tonight as well.
I think the portrait on the Batman Begins piece is phenomenal.
It's probably one of the best Batman Begins since the Interbay figure.
Yeah.
And so I do really think that they have come into their own. I think that they have needed to. I think that they've needed to stay competitive with the hot toy market and the Queen Studios and J&D and all these companies that are doing just phenomenal work. I think that they've needed to up their game, and I feel like they have. I do. Leo brings up the point that Sideshow has the best customer service in the industry. No other company comes close, in my opinion. I will second that. I also think that, again, they've been able to keep their prices pretty affordable.
For sure.
And they're still a company that does a very high ES, which means people are still buying. Do you think that's how they're able to keep it so low, whereas other companies are selling 300 of something, and then that's why they have to jack the prices up so much? You guys think that's kind of where we're at?
Yeah, and I think they must have connections for getting stored shipping containers that some other companies might not have.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Or even the factories, like I said, it could be anything. Like, you know, they've been around, you know, maybe it has, probably longer. So they might have, longer connections with these factories.
And every once in a while, there's a small ES from Sideshow. That comic Black Widow they're doing is only 600.
Really?
Yeah.
Then I don't know. Like I said, going back to the weight, I don't know how much material factors into the prices, but for the most part, their statues are lighter and a little bit, smaller bases. So maybe that's how they keep the prices down.
It's certainly going to save on shipping.
Yep.
So I mean, all of that does matter, I think. Which is, I think, why a lot of people say, we want smaller bases. We don't want the big bases because of space, but it also increased the costs. It's a lot more polystone.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I do like the weight. I mean, I do like it to feel like it's worth. I mean, got some heft to it.
Like I told you guys, I got into 3D printing, and I'll tell you that the materials does add up. Just making the statue a little bit more thicker than, on compared to like the thin side, it could easily double the price of materials. So.
Stanley says, would U.S. production factories help statue prices and quality? I would like to think so, but I think it would jack up the prices because we would charge more here.
Way up there.
I mean, to pay a fair wage in the United States is very different than a factory in China, unfortunately. I wish they were paid more, but there's a reason why they use Chinese factories. I think it would make things a lot easier here, but I agree with Jeff. I think prices would go through the roof. Also, to be able to find skilled painters. Had a great conversation with Chad from Tweeterhead, and we talked about just the painter aspect of it. Because I asked him about U.S. factories. I asked him if that was a possibility, and it's just that there's such a limited amount the amount of talent that these artists have to be able to replicate on 1,000 statues or whatever. Like, that's a very amazing skill.
Yeah.
We might sit in our basement painting one statue or something, and that's awesome. But to think of the level that these artists have to go through to produce this stuff in a timely manner, although 2 years is not really a timely manner, but to get that level of talent in the United States would take a long, long time.
And then to keep each one identical and consistent is still mind blowing to me how they do that.
Yeah,
I'm amazed. Like, I was even looking at, like, I had the cable head, and he's got gray hair, but in every single fold of his hair, there's a dark gray or black underneath it. I'm like, how in the world do they paint that?
Yeah. I
have absolutely no idea. Unless they did each individual thing. I mean, that would take hours. But I mean, just, they are talented. And so to be able to get it here in the United States, I think it would be near impossible because they would have to pay them, just giant amounts of money for that talent. And I don't think they will. But who knows? Let me see if I'm missing any other. Yeah, skilled painters would be pricey. Yeah, we do not emphasize art in school, that's for sure. So anyway, yes or no? Is quarter scale pricing out of hand?
Yeah.
Everything's out of hand.
Sure.
But as you said, it will continue to go up as long as we continue to buy. But I think it really just comes down to being selective. You buy the pieces you really love. Yes, does it suck that Jeff can't go to the store and buy whatever he wants? Or does it suck that Jeff Delaney wants to buy Loki, but then has to think, I just don't really know? That's where we're at. Whereas a couple years ago, we would have just hit the pre-order button and not thought twice. Well, maybe a little twice. But nowadays, you're like, nope.
Wouldn't have thought as much.
Yeah, we wouldn't have thought as much.
Hey, Swamp Thing is the first XM piece I've ordered in years. They priced me out.
It is a beaut.
It's pretty nice. Can't wait for that one.
I've got this great store tour coming up from XM, and just again to see it, I think it's one of the best on display there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly of all their quarter scale. It's just very, very good. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about this topic before we move on to topic 2?
The one thing I want to mention about it, actually, is also we're comparing like Sideshow compared to, say, like Prime 1 or even XM, is the assembly of the pieces. Where Sideshow, I feel like most ones I own at least, are you put the body on a base, the arms, and the head. Maybe a couple other little things, but you go to XM or Prime 1, you're talking sometimes dozens of pieces, which I think also calculates into the size of the boxes and the shipping and everything else that is going to jack it all up even more.
Yeah, my Sideshow live unboxings are pretty boring. Base, body, head. Okay, done. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, it is. It's true. But
I like that.
I was gonna say it's not a bad thing.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just something I was just looking around and thinking about. You know, I see a couple Prime ones that I have, and they're like 20, 30 parts, and the Sideshow count them for me is 4 or 5. And I
like when it's
all weekend, and I could sell every time I had a Sideshow box. I'm like, oh, this one's easy to put somewhere.
I kind of like when it's a challenge to put together a statue. I feel like I got kind of like more of my money's worth. It's more like putting together like a Lego or something. I got my money's worth on that Prime 1 Brainiac. It took me like 2 hours to put that thing together.
I was gonna say, I bet it did. And like doing the cable, I didn't look at anything ahead of time. I didn't know where I was supposed to put anything. I just tried to figure it out live on camera, and it went pretty well for the most part. But that's kind of fun. It's kind of fun just to like go in blind, try to figure out how things all fit together. So we'll move on to topic number 2, and this was one of Eric's ideas for topics. How to manage space so you can enjoy your collection. So again, this kind of goes back with being selective, but how do you guys manage your space? I mean, I know that we're all limited